Marie Davis, Amanda Carr, Abigail Harris, Gillian Richardson, and Chief Superintendent Steve Jones.
Okay, great. So second item, disclosures of personal or prejudicial interest. Do we have any? No indications? No, that's great. Okay, and so on to item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Are we all comfortable they're a true and accurate record? Yeah.
Yeah.
Karen? Yeah. Karen?
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to raise one thing. I think we talked at the last meeting about the Vice Chair, and I think I'm still down as saying as being the Vice Chair, but it's Marie Davis, isn't it, who's going to be the Vice Chair?
All right. Thank you for the clarification. That's appreciated. So congratulations to Marie. And so we'll go on then to public question time. Have we had any public questions, please?
No, Chair, no public questions have been received.
Okay, thank you. On then to item 5, which are the updates on our steps of our wellbeing plan. So I'll come first, Karen, to you for transforming early years services across Swansea.
Thanks, Chair. In terms of our action plan, we are on track with most of our actions. There's a couple that have turned amber in this last period, so I'll just touch on the reason for those. So the action around reviewing the Healthy Charles Wales programme and making sure we can use that data then to inform our early years models locally. Some of that is linked to national work on the national sort of digital plan, and so that's been delayed. It's going to be meaning that action will roll over into the Q1 of next year due to the sort of link with the national portal, where we're looking at sort of getting metrics and indicators and then using that data to inform our local plan. So that's why that one's slightly gone amber. And then the other one is around how we look to expand our early years using local assets and try and reach more families in the community. So we have had we've been working with the Regional Partnership Board, who have done a lot of work on looking at the mapping of hubs, particularly around where children and young people groups meet. We've got some of that data now, and what we want to do now is to make sure we overlay that now. There's a lot of hubs out there, so in order to sort of hone down and look at where we need to really focus on expanding some of our early years services, we're going to do that by overlaying that where some of the greatest need is. So working with our public health teams to do that. So we've got a little group working on that, and some of that action again will move over into Q1 of next year as well. So all I want to do is give you an update on why those couple of things have slipped in amber, but they'll be back on track next year, and everything else is progressing well. And some things have been completed because the dates were March as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. I'll open it up to any questions or comments. It's good to note the progress, and sometimes things do slip a bit, but I'm sure we'll be back on track very soon. So thank you for that. Okay, I'll hand over to Ness for building on Swansea as a human rights city.
Thanks, Chair. So this is a brief update on step 2, building on Swansea's declaration as a human rights city. Overall, I'm pleased to report strong progress, activities on track, and we're seeing human rights increasingly embedded into day-to-day practice across partners. A key milestone for this year has been the human rights-based approach self-assessment. And this has been co-designed with our stakeholder panel, and the final framework has now been circulated. The majority of PSB partners have actually completed their assessments, and they're already using these to identify clear next steps and areas for collective improvement, which is great. We've also made significant progress towards our World Health Organization age-friendly city status, and our application is now complete, and I believe was submitted earlier this week, or is about to be submitted. In terms of frontline practice, human rights awareness continues to strengthen within the probation service in both community and custody settings, and this work's influencing how rights are considered in risk management processes such as MAPA and MARAC, supporting more balanced and person-centred decision making. In the voluntary sector, led by the SCVS, we're continuing to expand safeguarding training and resources, which is strengthening confidence and consistency across organisations. And importantly, human rights is now fully embedded in the Health Board's strategic equality plan. So our KPIs are on target, and while we do still have risks around awareness, resources and measuring impact, we have got mitigations in place through training, targeted engagement and clear performance measures. So in the next period, our focus is going to be on using those self-assessment findings to drive improvement, finalising or hopefully getting a response on our age-friendly city application, and continuing to embed human rights consistently across our services. Chair, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ness. Any questions or comments from anyone for Ness? No? Okay, thank you. We note the good progress. So I'll come to Hywel next for working towards Swansea's net zero target and nature recovery. Hywel, over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Chair. I'll perhaps start on a bit of a negative topic, I guess, because we did note in the last meeting a bid put in for climate action funding, and that was just short of £1 million to take forward further engagement, especially across the business sector in Swansea, to prepare themselves for mitigation and for the risks associated with climate change. Unfortunately, that bid wasn't successful, which is rather disappointing, but the Climate Change Signature Group are still looking for other opportunities and just scanning to see what's coming through, maybe through other source funding, but a little bit disappointing. But to turn on this head, the Climate Change Signature Group have been working together, and we've now got an action plan distilled, and the distillation comes from about 147 kind of wider objectives from the climate change risk assessment criteria the Welsh Government set, along with perhaps more importantly or equally as important, the feedback from a community engagement exercise that took place last year with communities across Swansea, 150 actions there. So in total, you know, the group has distilled nearly 300 actions down to 11 key work areas to take forward. So that work is now kind of progressing and being taken forward around that. The few areas of risk at amber, but hopefully we will turn them around to green by the end of the year. And that will be taken forward by the climate change group themselves. Just also to note, members of the group will be at the Croeso event, I think, held in the centre of Cardiff, centre of Swansea, at the end of this month, and celebrating St David's Day on the 1st of March, so that weekend. And it will be a way of engaging with the people of Swansea around the climate change agenda, sharing information for people to be prepared, giving kind of further consideration to the work, along with engaging with some of the town and community councils in the area to hopefully find two community councils that will already take forward a review of the risks around the climate change for them to be able to better share with the communities, and hopefully building on that as funding allows, we may be able to find a funding source to take forward further work around that there. So really grateful to the wider team and the Signature Group for all the work done thus far, and hopefully we'll continue that stream going forward. Just to finally add, obviously there's the programme going forward around Davati. I think it's going to be led by the police. The group as well is looking at what can be done around that geographic area to improve the environment for the people living there, and that's in terms of green infrastructure within that fairly urban environment, but also opportunities for places people to enjoy, as well as trying to tackle some of the risks that the community faces there from extreme heat events. So a bit of work to be built in going forward on that area there as well. So that's it for me. Happy to take any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Hywel. Just from me, my thanks to you, Jane Richmond, and the wider Climate Signatories group. It's great to see so much community engagement and community voice being at the forefront of the action plan. So really pleased with that because it's a topic which affects everybody, and it's good to see that interest from residents of Swansea as well. Any comments or questions for Hywel? No, and just a final one from me. Really welcome your involvement on the Clear Hold build. It'll probably change name before then in terms of the green infrastructure and improving that for the community in that area as well. That's going to be a massive project and could make such a big difference. So well done on that being a priority.
Just quickly back of that, I know you as an authority working with ourselves, some advisory side have secured some Welsh Government funding to support some of the wider green infrastructure improvements to address some of the surface water issues around the city as well. So that's quite a positive forward step as well, because surface water flooding to property is a frequent event these days, as Craig will be all too familiar with, and users of the highway network, are also inconvenienced in the process, but nothing worse than floodwater in properties. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Hywel. Ines?
Yeah, Chair, I was just going to say that I was going to pick up on the Divati Clear Hold build project when we come to the report from Stephen Taylor, if I may, and just to update the board at that point.
That would be great, Ness, to expand on that. I didn't want to say too much at this point, so thank you. We'll come to that later on the agenda. Thank you, Hywel, for the update. So we'll come now. Diolch. We'll come to Craig now for making Swansea safer, more cohesive and prosperous. Craig, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So quite a lengthy update's been provided in the action plan, but just to take you through the high level aspects of it. So a couple of ambers like the other steps have got, but nothing that I don't think will be completed by the end of the year. Just to give you a flavour of some of those ambers, the action around strengthening multi-agency community safety teams by improving collaboration between Blue Light Services, local authorities, social services. You'll recall the conversation around the community safety team co-locating in the city centre building. Now, plans have been confirmed for that now, and the conversations are really advanced. They've undertaken a site visit before the end of last month, and it looks like the co-location is likely to start in April. So, some really good work going on there in and across that, but just recognising it's got an amber because the timescales are going to be towards the latter part of the year. In terms of enhancing youth engagement initiatives to prevent crime and antisocial behaviour, I think one of the reasons why Chief Superintendent Steve Jones has put an amber on this is because it's constant ongoing work. A lot of work being done in and around neighbourhood policing teams that have seen an uplift in their numbers, and definitely providing a visible presence in and around working in different partnerships and in and around the communities. So some good work going on there, and I think that will be able to be turned green before the end of the reporting period. And I know the last one on there was around, again, to do with myself in fire, hosting a children and young people themed workshop at Swansea City Stadium. If you forgive me, Chair, it did happen this week, even though this reporting period's up to the end of January. So I just wanted to give you a quick heads up that it was an amazing event. Again, good attendance, probably about 80 to 90 people attended from multi-agencies across the piece, coming together to discuss all things in relation to youth-related crime trends, both from perpetrators and from the victim's perspective. So a lot of different multi-agency partners stepped up to present there. Also some great workshops with some really interesting, insightful conversations coming out of that, all of which will come together in a report and an evaluation for the next PSB meeting. So that gives the overview of step 4, and happy to take any questions if anybody's got anything.
Thank you, Craig, for the update. Any questions or comments, Craig? No? Excellent work. Great to hear it was such a good turnout. Very positive, and great to see that we are moving towards a city centre base for the Blue Light Services. That's really welcomed. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to Mark Wade next, please, for developing Swansea's integrated cultural offer. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, just to provide the update on the integrated cultural offer, all efforts at the moment, it's a very timely update currently because we are moving towards finalising the cultural strategy. The consultation phases for that are now complete and we're at final draft stage. with a view then to asking Cabinet to sign off the cultural strategy, we hope in April, with a formal launch then to follow on later in May is our intentions. So quite a significant step forward there for this particular step. Importantly, then, once the strategy is completed, we move on to the delivery phase and the action plan, which underpins the strategy itself. That'll set out a number of clear roles, milestones, and obviously an annual review process as well to show important outputs. We're also currently working on expanding the cultural programming by increasing the number of accessible community-led events across Swansea. The overall intention is to expand the cultural event programme. We've been very successful in doing that. Things like the Croeso St David's Day event, outdoor theatre, outdoor cinema, the Jazz Festival, and also leisure activities, active leisure activities like the Swansea Bay 10K, which the council leads on developing and putting out. Also working then on an event strategy to support all of that work, as well as an audit of the music venues in Swansea, grassroots music venues, with a view on looking at facilities and what we can do as an authority to be more supportive to that particular sector. Moving into the sport and active movement side of things, we are moving towards the first year of a proper relationship with the newly formed West Wales Regional Sports Partnership, and that will improve coordination across boundaries with other authorities and other organisations, as well as then concentrating funding in areas of particular need. There's a sports partnership agreement with Sport Wales that sort of underpins all of that work and ensures that the funding is properly passported. Monitoring evaluation has been introduced to ensure that the transition from reporting direct to Sport Wales seamlessly moves across to the West Wales Partnership, as I've said, and we've actually met with them today. It looks like there's a bright future ahead for promoting activity, physical movement, not just sport, with the aim of improving the health of the population. So, and they've shared with us on their new strategy for sport and physical activity in the region as well. And I mentioned the Croeso event earlier on, and that underpins the action around strengthening Welsh language and heritage promotion. So we're looking forward to delivering the Croeso St David's Day event again this year. So, and that's the update for step 5. Chair, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments? No, just from me as chair, I think it's great to see us focused on grassroots venues. We've got a huge amount of local talent in Swansea and the wider region, and also having taken part in Swansea 10K, just, brilliant organisation of that event, absolutely brilliant. So well done to all involved, and great to see such a programme of cultural events across the year, brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. We'll go now then to item 6 on the agenda, which is external review of the Swansea Public Services Board report, and I'll hand over now to Ness.
Thank you, Chair. So this item reports on the independent review of the PSB, which we commissioned Stephen Taylor to undertake on our behalf using Welsh Government grant funding. It was undertaken during the autumn of 2025, and it set out to look at how we work as a partnership, what's working well, but importantly, where we could strengthen our impact as we move into the final 2 years of this current wellbeing plan that runs up to the end of March 2028. So as you can see from the report, overall, the findings were positive, highlighting strong relationships between partners, effective chairing of the board, and a shared commitment to improving outcomes for Swansea. There was evidence from the review that our partnership working has matured over the last 2 or 3 years, and that there's good engagement across the statutory partners, third sector and communities. But at the same time, their review is clear that there are opportunities to do more in that space, and also an expectation from us all as members for the PSB to move further beyond strategy and plans to focus more deliberately on visible place-based results. Some of the key themes from the review include a recognition of the increasingly complex partnership landscape in which the PSB operates, the value of deeper, more informal collaborative work alongside formal board meetings, and a stronger emphasis on prevention, place and community-led solutions. So the review pointed to some specific opportunities, particularly in respect of the Davati Clear Hold Build programme, which is being led by the police, funded by Home Office, as a potential flagship example of a prevention-led place-based working that the PSB could collectively support and learn from. I think importantly to note, the report doesn't make decisions for the board, but it does identify two levels of ambition for us to consider. The first is basically stems around continuing our current 5 steps, but sharpening our delivery and outcomes. And the second sort of more bold ambition for the PSB is for the PSB to become the Swansea's overarching collaborative body, and that might be something which we want to come back to in the future. But the immediate next step from the review was to use the content as a basis for further discussion and prioritisation, looking at our work programme for 2026 to 28. And on that basis, we have held a subsequent workshop on the 2nd of February. Is it the 2nd? Yeah, the 2nd of February, with partners to reflect on the content of the report, and also specifically to look at whether there was an appetite amongst partners to choose Davati Clear Hold Build as a flagship project for the PSB for over the next couple of years. It was a really well attended workshop, lots of really strong engagement and discussion and endorsement by those that attended. The Davati project really does offer us a very concrete and tangible opportunity to demonstrate how effectively the partnership can work together on a place-based footprint. And so from that workshop, we identified a number of actions that individual organisations and also step leads might be able to take under the Davati programme, and we agreed to bring it to this board today to seek formal endorsement of the PSB that this should become our key flagship project for the 26 to 28, and for it to sit as step 4 within our wellbeing plan, which is the focus on stronger communities. So if I can pause there, Chair, and just ask if the board is willing to endorse that as an approach, and then I can talk a bit more about some of the arrangements that we'll put in place as a consequence.
Yeah, thank you, Ness. Does anyone have any questions before we formally endorse? No? Can I see a show of hands then for, oh, sorry, Hannah, come on in.
Yeah. Just I don't feel well enough informed on the Davati Clear. Is there a follow-up paper on that I'm missing?
I can certainly share, Hannah, a paper with you. I
couldn't see it in the agenda.
No, because, sorry, it's not in the agenda because it is a follow-up to that report that is in the agenda. It's referenced in there, but I can certainly share that more detailed background document with you.
And then I did wonder, just in terms of comments on the findings from the report's positive. Great to have a shout out about positive partnerships and good sharing. Well done. But I did have a question, because it is mentioned quite a few times, about merging NPT and Swansea PSBs and sort of cutting through the complexity potentially and multiple layers. I just wondered where that conversation has gone, or if that's something we need to have a paper on and have a, or if I've missed the conversations on that. But that felt like quite a key message as well from the report.
Thank you. Hal, do you want to, Andrea, do you want me to answer those questions?
Yes,
And then, yeah.
yes, if you could,
Okay.
Ness, and then I'll come to
So-
Hywel then.
So in terms of Davati clear hole build, we apologies, Hannah, that you haven't you haven't had the background on that, but we can certainly share some information with you on it. But it's a Home Office funded project, and it's designed to focus on a specific geographical area within Swansea City. It's a sort of north city, north of the train station, and it's a programme that's designed to run over 2 to 3 years, and it's focusing on a really an area of Swansea where we have high levels of serious organised crime, deprivation, really challenging demographic, and the project is about dealing with the serious organised crime, clearing it out, and then also working with the community to really build that community development and hopefully secure it over the long term, so that that crime doesn't return and we can build a sustainable community there. So it's a really good example of prevention and community focused partnership working, which the PSB members have agreed would be a really excellent tangible project to progress over the next couple of years. So in terms of the merger of the proposal to merge Neath Talbot and Swansea Public Services Boards, we talked about that also at the meeting, the workshop on the 2nd of February, as that was, as you say, something that was in the report. And I think where we got to as partners was saying it is an interesting proposition. It's one that we have tentatively discussed in the past, but actually, given the timing of where we are with the end, coming to the end of our wellbeing plan in the next couple of years, and Neath Talbot in the same position, and also the fact that 26-27 is the year that we need to do our wellbeing assessment, all these things in timing terms means it's probably sensible to start thinking about whether or not a merger might be beneficial to the two PSBs in the at the start of the next wellbeing plan timeline, because even if a decision was made very promptly, it would probably take quite a while to sort of get us to that point. So it's something to seriously consider, and definitely would be something that we'd want to bring back to this board formally over the course of 26-27, once we've done more of that sort of thinking, and also started some discussions with Neath Talbot, which haven't yet begun.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
2027
Ness.
is not too long away, is it?
No.
No, absolutely. Hywel?
Yeah, just an observation myself. Unfortunately, I was away on leave at the time of the discussion around the Davati clear hole build. Discussion took place in the review discussion around the public service boards. What I would say is that Mark, who attended the meeting, was really enthused around the focus of us all as partners, narrowing down on one specific area and bringing a collaborative approach to deliver all our objectives in a unified and focused way. And I think it's a great thing, because all too often within public service boards, we spread ourselves rather thin. This gives us an opportunity to really work in collaboration, recognising the police will lead. But I certainly welcome that opportunity and I would support that. So that's where we are on behalf of NW. Thank you, Ness, for the really through thinking. Thank you, Chair. Give me the opportunity to say a few words. Ciao.
Thank you, Hywel. Councillor Chambers? We can't hear you, I'm afraid. Are you there? No? Can I make a suggestion? Perhaps if you want to leave and join again, and I'll come to Craig first, and then I'll come back to you when you're back in the room. Is that okay? Okay, Craig, coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just wanted to support the what Ness has just said there in terms of not just the CHB kind of aspect to it, because Mark will tell us more about this, I'm sure, as the time comes, that this is a methodology of approach that's worked in other areas and it's really delivered. And from a step 4 perspective, just recognising that a lot of the work that's been going on from both the police and the fire is pretty embedded now. You know, we're on our third iteration of the community safety event in Swansea.com. And I think I have a third or fourth iteration of the community safety partnership. Sorry, my cat has just jumped up my back. COVID moment there. So from a business as usual perspective, really happy to support that kind of place-based approach, which Steve Taylor reported back in. And also just some of the stuff that has emanated from that report in terms of a couple of meetings every year, but more informal discussions I think are going to be really helpful. I'm going to stop there while I sort this cat out. Thanks, Chair.
I'm trying not to laugh out loud. That is hilarious. But thank you for that. And thank you for the support from the fire service. I think we've lost Councillor Chambers' connection. I think he seems to have frozen. So I'll come back to you, Ness.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, and thank you, colleagues, for your support for the project. So, just to say, the second kind of proposition, I guess, is that we recognise the project under step 4 of the PSB plan, and in so doing that we accept that the things that have been happening under step 4 become business as usual, because as Craig has just described, they are now embedded, which is excellent and a testament to our partnership working. And that Devati becomes in effect step 4, and that is what we are reporting against. And just to then go on to say that it's the learning from the other Clear Hold Build projects has been how important it is to get the governance around the partnership working right from the get-go. And so on that basis, we are proposing to establish that strategic partnership board, which would involve all of the key PSB partners. And we have the inaugural meeting of that board scheduled to meet on the 24th of February. And then that board will report in through step 4 into this PSB, and I have the privilege of chairing that partnership board. So Craig has kindly handed the strategic leadership of step 4 to me to enable that to sort of happen in a seamless way.
Thank you, Ness. Karen?
Thanks, Chair. I was at the workshop. We were representing the health board. We're absolutely supportive of the approach. I think I just did caution, and Ness has reflected it in the notes of the meeting, that the health board is in a particularly financial sort of situation at the moment. So in terms of additional resource we can play into this, we were quite clear we will absolutely be able to work with within our constraints, I suppose, Chair, really, and that working with the area partnership boards are going to be key, given the link with substance misuse and the resources that we're putting collectively into there as partners as we develop, those services and improve those services. And also, whilst the health board obviously manages a lot of the health areas in the health board, we don't have jurisdiction over the primary care, the dental, the other practitioners that are in the primary care community space. So, linking in with our cluster footprint, where our GPs and the community teams lead that, and we've given Ness those contacts, they're going to be key because they are the neighbourhood footprint in those areas. So, yeah, we're supportive of this, and it's just, the resources, the work we're doing, and Hannah picked it up in the early years area already. Hannah absolutely plays into this. So we've already done more and put more resource from our health visiting into that area. And I picked up as well that we can't do this for education, because a lot of the talk was around it starting off with the early years, getting those early years right. That's where health, education and local authority come together particularly. So education need to be part of this as a key partner as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Karen. I'm going to try Gary once more. Gary? You're on mute, I think. No? Okay, I'll come back to you, Ness.
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on Karen's point and to reassure the board. So at the moment, we're developing the partnership communication and engagement plan. So the police already have developed an engagement plan for the first phase of Clear, but we are now looking at that to ensure that we can that we've covered all the relevant partners, and in that we're identifying the stakeholders. And as Karen says, we're identifying the relevant stakeholders out in the community for the health board. So, you know, we're understanding that there are different ways to engage different sort of professions within the health board. So that work is ongoing, and there'll be a draft of that communication and engagement plan going to the strategic partnership board at the end of this month.
Thank you, Ness. And just from my perspective, I'm really looking forward to being involved in this in terms of governance, not just as the chair of the Public Services Board, but also with the responsibility of council housing in my portfolio. And as we're a major landlord in that area, it does seem very fitting, and look forward to being inclusive with the residents. And this is very much, you know, the community has to be at the heart of everything that we do, and not to jump ahead too far, but if this is successful and lessons learned reveal that it has made a big difference, this is certainly a template that we could lift and place elsewhere, you know, and look at other parts of Swansea in the future as well. So really look forward to being part of this, and I think it's going to make a major difference to the people living in that area. Mark?
Yeah, firstly, I just wanted to thank Ness really, because since she's come into the mix with this initiative, it's really come on leaps and bounds. You know, the structure is there, the governance is really clear, and I think as a result of having that workshop on the 2nd of February, I think I came away from that workshop really excited really about particularly the build element of the initiative, because the third sector, I think, have got a massive role to play in this. And you know, I think there's going to be so many volunteers chomping at the bit to be involved in that regeneration bit. And I think it straddles across all of our priorities as a PSB. So I think what started off sort of this time last year as a bit of an idea in terms of a police operation just to clean up Davati flats has now really evolved into a really big project, which is really great. And I think if we get the community on board as well, as part of that early engagement in March, I think this is going to be a really successful initiative. But again, I just wanted to thank Ness massively, really, for all the support you've given us so far.
Thank you, Mark. And I could see Councillor Chambers has put a message in the chat that he would like some documentation on and to find out a bit more about this flagship project. So I'm sure that can be arranged, and along with updating Hannah as well, of course. So yes, Hannah, in response to your comments in the chat, this isn't about creating a new strategy and a new step. This is about embedding it in what we're already doing. But it's good to have something that we can get our teeth into that will be measurable as well, because we're often asked as a PSB, you know, what are the outcomes, what difference, what impact has PSB made? So this is going to be something that I think is going to be able to reflect the actions and outcomes and what's happened in this particular target focused area. So looking forward to that as well. Ness, did you want to say anything further on this?
Yeah, just a couple of points. So I've got a really nice, concise briefing that I can send out after the meeting to all attendees, which gives you all the key points about the project. The only other thing I would say is Davati Clearhold Build is a working title. Yes. And it's something that we are looking at, because Davati is part of the area, the geographic area, but it's actually bigger than that. And my final point would be about the Pride in Place initiative. So the council, or Swansea, I should say, has been successful in securing funding through the Pride in Place initiative, and that initiative covers the same geography and more, and is a project which will be over a longer time frame, but we just need to make sure that we're making the connections and aligning those two projects together. So we will be doing that too.
Yes, thank you, Ness, and thank you for the update. So we'll move on to item 7, the letter from Scrutiny Programme Committee following the 18th of November 2025 meeting. It's really pleasing to note not just the positivity from the scrutiny committee, but the fact that they acknowledged that there was such a strong presence from Public Services Board partners at the meeting and significant input in terms of reflecting who is leading on what step and all the work that's going on. Just one minor request for an expansion on the early years report which was provided, and those letters are in your pack. So happy to take any questions, but yes, I think it was a very, very positive meeting, and they did appreciate all the work that's gone on. And as Ness referenced earlier, it's a far more targeted partnership approach that we've had over the last 2 to 3 years. And I think Scrutiny Committee have acknowledged that as well. So happy to take any questions, but just to place on record my thanks to partners for attending that meeting. And it did show a strength of purpose from us, and it was good to have a strong front. So thank you for that. I can't see anyone indicating, so we'll note those letters and we'll move on to hand off to Steve for the Public Services Board data portal and population measures update. Steve, off to you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Afternoon, everyone. Just a quick run through of the paper. It's a follow-on really from the paper that went to the board in October, just to sort of bring things a bit further forward. So yes, now that it was during October that all 3 PSBs involved in the regional data portal launched their websites, hosting the portal more or less simultaneously. We've had a couple of demos, which I think all board members were invited to. Initially this board, but there was a further opportunity shared with our board members that couldn't make that was hosted by Neath Talbot PSB. So we've had a good bit of coverage there. We've also had the project mentioned at a couple of Welsh Government forums and meetings I've been in recently, which is also good positive publicity. We're still building on it. There are still things about it that we are working on with Data Cymru, or I should get used to calling them WLGA now because they're now part of WLGA. And we've got other improvements that we're working with them on at the moment. We're doing it as a 3 PSB group, if you like. So any changes made, any developments are basically approved by all PSBs, and we're not going off in different directions. So that's good, and it keeps the costs manageable as well in the long run. So that's all positive, and it's fostered that partnership working with our neighbours, which is always positive, I think. So yeah, we're continuing to develop. We're looking at some of the quick fixes and wins that couldn't be actioned are going to go forward into a stage 2, which will now fall into next year's ongoing work on this. So we'll continue to have that dialogue with them and making those further improvements as far as we can. I've got some interference, I think, sorry, from somewhere. Sorry. Yeah, so we are going to be continuing to work on it. I mean, hopefully it's a useful resource for people already, but I think it'll be very important for us as we go into the year where most of the work on the wellbeing assessments is going to take place. So hopefully people involved in that will find it useful on that front as well. Which leads me on to sort of the second part of the report, really. Again, it was mentioned in the October update that work has been continuing on the workbook of the 23 wellbeing indicators that we arrived at via a process quite some time ago now. But yeah, so we are working on summaries of all of them. I think we're over halfway now, but we have shared some of them with colleagues in our partners via our regional data group, which I think is mentioned in the report. And I've also sort of conferred with some subject experts as well, who I know are the go-to people for that particular topic, because it's certainly not always my expertise in some cases. So yeah, we're continuing that process, and we're looking to arrange some further meetings beginning later this month and into March. You know, using that base of contacts that we've got, and you know, keep developing them. And yeah, the proposal is, I think, to bring them to a future meeting of the board as a package. Whether that's an informal or a formal meeting, I'm not quite clear on that yet. And as part of that process as well, we'll be doing a sort of light touch review of these 23 measures that were probably identified a little while ago now. So there's probably a little bit of an exercise, not to rip it all up and start again, but perhaps to sort of review them for whether they still make sense as our measures. So again, that's going to be part of the process that we'll use when we take it to our partners in our group. So yeah, that's basically all on that item. Happy to take any comments and queries. And the 23 measures I mentioned, I think, were attached as an appendix to that. So just as a reference guide, that's our current list anyway.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Ness?
Thanks, and thanks, Steve. I think these are really exciting developments, aren't they? And I know it's a journey we're going on, but you can really start to see how some of this data sharing and is going to really help us, both in terms of reporting, but also hopefully to actually use it to inform and manage within organisations as well as with us as a partnership as a whole. And I just, one, I guess, is a question as to whether partners are seeing and have looked at the portal and can see that it would be valuable, not just as a reporting tool, but actually that they can use it to inform their own service design and delivery. But also then looking at the indicators, and I know that you're going to do this light touch review, but I wondered whether just looking at them as they are, whether we think that there are any gaps in respect to prevention or early intervention. And also then I was thinking about the Marmot principles and whether or not that we've looked at them through the lens of Marmot and said, are these still the most appropriate? And I guess you're going to do that piece of work, so it's probably just some things to flag up to look at as you do that.
Okay, do you want to respond to that, Steve, before I bring it on?
Yeah, we're happy to take that on board, and yeah, when we'll factor in that thinking. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Steve. And I think it builds on quite nicely from Ness's point, actually, and just to give some assurance back to the board, because I know there's been that regional data group, and myself and some others from the health board have been part of that as well. And I think we recognise as part of that, there's a suite of indicators and there's a suite of work from our constituent organisations as well in terms of doing similar pieces of work. So we know as a health board we've been developing our population health strategic plan, and there's a suite of population health indicators within that, again aligned to Marmot and other principles. So yeah, just welcome the opportunity, and I know it's already in the paper, but just to give some assurance back to the board really is that, you know, we welcome the opportunity to be part of those ongoing reviews and just making sure there is alignment, because I think ultimately there's more alignment, isn't there, than divergence across these indicators, but it's just making sure that we're all part of that joining up really, because I think the more that we can see those interconnections, I'm sure that'll help us in the ongoing assessments and plans going forward. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Steve, you're nodding in agreement.
Absolutely, yes. I know I've discussed this with Mark outside this already, and we'll carry on those discussions, I'm sure, very soon.
Yeah. But just to add my thanks to you for all the work that you're doing on this. And if anyone hasn't looked at the portal, I really recommend that you do. It's a very, very powerful, useful tool, in my opinion, for sure. So thank you for that. So before we move on to the next item on the agenda, I'm conscious of the fact that we didn't actually formally endorse item 6, Ness's proposal for the flagship property, the flagship project of Clearhold Build. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? So perhaps if I could ask members just to formally endorse that with a show of hands. Great. Okay, thank you so much. And right, I'll go back to the agenda as written, and to item 9, towards an assessment of local wellbeing 27. Steve, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just it's sort of linked to the previous item, but it's certainly discrete enough to warrant its own. Yeah, it's set out in the report really. Obviously, a lot of people in the meeting will be aware of this this project looming large. We're about to enter the third cycle. Can you believe it already? So yeah, the bottom line is we need to work towards getting a well-being assessment of local well-being finished and published with Welsh Government by May 2027, which sounds a long time away, but it isn't really. And I was saying that when it was last year, and now it seems very, very near future, because there are a lot of elements and stages and milestones involved in getting to that point. So I think the next couple of months, especially, probably more as important as any stage of it to plan it well and get the building blocks in place and get that buy-in from partners. That it is really a partnership piece of work, totally. So the paper also mentions that at the same time, again, as previous rounds, the RPB will be leading on the population needs assessment, again, happening in a similar time frame. So as part of our regional group, we have got representation from there, so they'll be part of the discussions as well. As a context to that, I know the two parts of Welsh Government that deal with both assessments are trying to work through and issue some additional or clearer guidance that provides a framework to guide both assessments, and looking for ways to join them up as much as the legislation and other factors allow. So that piece of work is ongoing. We're perhaps not quite ready for that to be reported on yet. I think it'll be well into March at best before that emerges. So I think we have to sort of think about planning on the basis of what we do know, which is in the act and guidance, but have one eye on that maybe to see whether that'll influence what we do, because it is quite a resource intensive piece of work for both partnerships. Yes, going back quickly to the previous round, in essence, we sort of brought the work together with a series of topic groups led by strand leads for the 4 dimensions of well-being. So we did that. I mean, yeah, last time round, I think it's not probably a controversial thing to say that we did have some difficulties last time around. Yeah, as the report says, it was too lengthy overall. There were gaps. There were slippages in the timeline. I mean, it's no reflection on the people involved, and I know there were issues with the time we were in. We were still in pandemic times, so that affected the resources of a lot of people who would have otherwise contributed. So this time, basically, as ever, we will look to try and improve that. We'll build on the collaboration that we've already had with the partners through the data group, which I mentioned in the last item again, and look at ways to simplify the process where possible, define our scope a little bit more tightly, set sort of guidelines and rules, word limits as best we can, and which I think will pay dividends down the line, because at 200+ pages, it's perhaps not something we'd want to repeat if we can help. So in terms of the structure and the content, we as I said, we're hoping to set up some meetings in the near future with the key partners who are going to be involved to sort of consider these issues. So yeah, we'll be working on that hopefully over starting at the end of this month and going through into March, and then perhaps bring a further more considered report on an approach to a future meeting. So yeah, so the next steps for us really is obviously to take any feedback on board from today. We'll start making our preparations. We'll keep an eye on what's happening with Welsh Government in terms of any changes in guidance and approach. and yeah, we'll work on it and bring another update. Or we'll probably have a series of updates to the several meetings over the year ahead. But we'll obviously keep the board informed as to how things are going and at reported critical times. So yeah, happy to take any comments, queries, and or just open the discussion really.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And Ness?
Sure.
Thank you, Steve. Really refreshing and honest assessment of kind of the 22 assessment that was undertaken. I think that's really helpful to start with that reflection. A couple of things for me. One, in terms of I think the report recognises that public engagement was weaker than perhaps we would liked it back then. So just keen to understand how we're going to make sure that we get that public engagement this time around. And then just also to advise colleagues that I've been having a discussion with colleagues from Swansea University around a potential research, they're called areas of research interest. It's an initiative that Swansea University are working on, looking to work with public sector organisations on particular projects where they can bring academic research to help inform public policy, public service design. And this, in terms of the wellbeing assessment, looks like a potential candidate for them to be able to help us where we may identify we have a data gap or area where we want to delve perhaps a bit more deeply than the data we have available enables us to. And that might be something that we could work with the university on. So it's early days, but just to let you know that that's a potential area of information data that we might be able to bring to the assessment during the course of the next year.
Great, thank you, Ness. Hywel?
Yeah, well, great mind was thinking like, because I was going to pick up the issue that Ness was raising around kind of, of course, we have the gathering of the database, the production of the wellbeing plan, and again, there's the consultation area where I think all public service boards really struggle to get, good engagement and feedback. And I think that's something we've just got to think about. How do we achieve that, when we go from the assessment to the plan stage and consult on that. So thank you, Ness, bring that in. Brilliant if university can indeed assist with that work. I can ask Stephen, because I wasn't around for the last wellbeing assessment for the Swansea plan. I did one or two others, but just thinking about the data source you've got, whether there's any merit in setting up a data group. I know some of the PSBs do have that, and is there something we've done on the Arachid jointly, maybe with Neath Talbot, because there are overlaps with certain organisations, recognising that Swansea is quite unique and very different to Neath Talbot, but in data trends around the health, our own data trends, some of the fire service, sorry, Craig speak to you, but there will be speak of your sector, but there is a data trends that might just help to find where you can get the data, recognising ultimately it's down to Welsh Government to also kind of help steer the data that's available and what they'd like to see through new plans. So just if your thoughts and comments. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Hywel. Yes, I say I make mention of the regional data group that we had, and we have had good involvement in that from NLW colleagues through mostly in Swansea from Helen Gray. So she's been our most regular contributor to that as and when she can. So, long may that continue. So we certainly want to include, her and, going forward and yeah, it's obviously one of the four strands in terms of the dimensions of well-being, and we do need to source as good a data as we can in that area for sure. I know Helen's got a lot of ways into other people in both NRW and elsewhere. So hopefully she'll still be able to support this.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, the offers on the table there, happy to support, but Helen's just offline at the moment. But if you come to myself or Mark, Sabine directly, we'll pick it up and find someone to fill the void. Helen's not around. Okay, so
excellent. Yeah, thank you, Hal.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh.
That's great. Thank you, Steve, for the update. And as you say, you know, very resource intensive piece of work to be done, not to be underestimated. You know, we do need a long lead in time, but it is critical as a PSP to get that right. So thank you for that. And so that takes us to our last agenda item, which is Public Services Board grant spend. And I'll come to you, Ness, to take us through this one, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think Richard's going to take us through this one, if that's okay.
Richard? Yeah, absolutely. Come on in, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. So the report sets out the current situation regarding the grant that the PSB receives from the Welsh Government. The proposals for spending it covered a wide range of activities, which you can see in paragraph 2.2, which also sets out what has been spent, what has been committed or planned, and what's left. So at the moment, that's £2,525, which was enough to cover the cost of the workshop that was held on the 2nd of December, plus we have now some remaining funds to be spent as well, a small amount. So in summary, the board's just been asked to note that, and happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions or comments? No, that is noted. So it just remains for me to reference the next date of the meeting, which will be Thursday, the 23rd of April at 3 p.m. And to thank you all for your contributions today and for your ongoing support. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Thanks very much.
Well,
Bye.
Thank you.
well,